Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Welcome. This is Ramona Houston, and this is my podcast. And today I have Mr. Alfred Ramirez, who is founder and president of Diverse Strategies Now. He is a longtime friend, and I absolutely love Alfred. And he's going to tell us about his work and his whole trajectory and what he does that adds so much value to our communities, nation, and world. Hi, Alfred. Welcome.
Wow. And right back at you. You're one of my all-time favorite people on the planet, or I guess the universe, maybe. So thank you. And it's a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be with you today.
Thank you, Alfred. So tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit about yourself and what the work that you do and all the places you've been. I know you've worked with all types of in several different industries, as well as worked in government. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I think like everyone, whether or not they realize it, we're pretty much products of our environment, and I'm definitely that. I'm hugely a product of my environment. I grew up in East LA. My neighborhood was probably 99% Chicano, which is Mexican descent, born in the U.S. And even that term Chicano, I call myself that today. That came up during the time that I grew up. I was a hyphenated American. Mexican-American. As much as I tried to belong, did everything I could to succeed and to give back, it just seemed to never be enough in certain circles, certain situations, and certain close encounters I had. So that drove me to look around. I didn't have the vocabulary or the understanding of all the complexities as a child, as a teenager growing up. To understand why were there riots in Watts? Why was there a moratorium, a Chicano moratorium, turned into a riot in East LA? Why were there so many haves and have-nots? And in my neighborhood, it was a lot of have-nots. And in fact, the gang house was on across the street from me. So, and every day it was the question was, when are you going to join? When are you gonna, get in here and man up? So I was the oldest of five, so I walked the real tight rope, trying to be an example, trying to fit in, stay in, and be safe. So that drove me. I ended up going off to New York to Columbia University when I was 18. Had never been on a plane. I'd never been past El Paso, Texas, where my dad is from. So I'm Tex Mex. So that's kind of the backdrop. So I went away to come back with my tools and to really get a handle on how different people think, how institutions operate, how policy is made, and how politics and power influence. That's what's running through my veins, and so I try. And we can talk a little later, but as I walked and talked and read and listened, I went through different arenas to acquire that knowledge. And I'm currently president of Diverse Strategies Now. I did call it Diverse Strategies at one point. But the urgency of the situations that we're experiencing in the last 2 years or so had me quickly shift to Diverse Strategies Now with more of a sense of urgency and importance. And so, I divide what I do in my programs and services into 4 areas: people and programs, diversity strategies, community development, and organizational management. And with people and programs, Well, in fact, before I even go on, did you have any questions about or any thoughts about what I shared regarding my background?
Yeah, you talked about growing up Tex Mex and then being informed through your education. What was your professional trajectory even before you got to diverse strategies now? What have been your professional experiences that empowered you as a Latino and as an American?
Sure, I've been very blessed. By the way, yeah, I've got to stick in that mentors are huge, and your immediate role models, even distant role models. So I grew up idolizing Cesar Chavez and Martin Luther King, and then later Gandhi, all because they were talking about mass movements peacefully. When I went to Columbia, I thought I was going to be either a social worker, English teacher, or a psychologist, and I did neither, or a lawyer, actually, a civil rights lawyer, and I did neither of those. I didn't know there was such a major as political science or urban studies. Discovered them at Columbia, and I ended up double majoring in urban studies and political science. When I graduated, I had been an admissions office assistant, volunteer. Since freshman year, I flew back to East LA to recruit students to the East Coast. And so after 4 years of doing that, literally as a freshman, they were flying me out to California. They said, "Would you like to join us?" So I became an admissions officer. And I thought I was going to do 2 years, take a study course for the LSAT, the LSATs for law school exam, and go on to be a civil rights lawyer. That didn't happen. I ended up loving it so much. Instead of 2 years, I stayed 4. And then after 4 years, I said, I've been on this campus 8 years now, 4 undergrad and 4 working. It's time to branch out. I got a wonderful fellowship, and I encourage anybody listening to look into it. It's called the National Urban Fellows. And I was placed with Henry Cisneros as my mentor. He was a mayor of San Antonio at the time, and then went on to become Secretary of HUD, HUD, Housing Urban Development, for the U.S. government, and then with Univision, and now doing his own work in the corporate sector. I worked with him for a bit, then went back to California and worked as a human resource specialist, and then joined Inroads, which is a great ground. And that's another program to look into, Inroads. It's nationwide in various cities, and it's to help put minorities in positions in business and technology. I kept moving on into different sectors from there. From government to corporate to nonprofit areas. I headed a $2 million Mattel Foundation initiative that involved parents and community members in their schools. I worked for ACT testing, educational testing. Those folks that we have to take those tests with when we're in high school. And then I went off to the White House. I served in the Clinton administration in presidential personnel at the White House, the Corporation for National Service, and then I was executive director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. Did that work, and then decided to come back towards West, but stopped in the Midwest, where I am now. I've been president of the Greater Quad Cities Hispanic Chamber of Commerce here in Moline, Illinois. I've worked for Group O, which was the 15th largest Hispanic-owned company, as Vice President of Government Relations and Diversity. I worked for the U.S. Hispanic Leadership Institute as Director of Operations, assisting students, parents, teachers, administrators nationwide. And now I'm doing my own work. All along, I've always consulted. So putting up my own shingle, diverse strategies now, it was not foreign to me. It was more doing it full time and doing it all the time. I don't mean to list all the places I've been, but I think the message I want to share is that I followed my heart, I followed my passion, and if there's any current that runs beneath me or around me, or if there's any foundation, it's that I'm constantly looking to increase the capacity and the ability of individuals to succeed, to provide access, to even provide knowledge, to let people know this and that is out there, make the match, to empower people, to motivate people, and to give them the tools. That's what's driving me. And that trajectory, someone could say, boy, either he can't keep a job or he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. Really, it was very systematic. And one good thing led to another. Some people may stay in the same position and may be able to do just as well in terms of their impact and influence. So there's no right formula or method. There's no one way. Anyone listening should know that. Follow your heart and know what you're good at and what you enjoy most. And then start to take care of matters from there.
Wow, you've had an incredible professional trajectory working in, like you said, nonprofit, higher education, politics and government, as well as in the corporate sector. And even more so being around some great leaders and having some great mentors. You know, when we look at the empowerment of the African American and Latino communities, leadership development is so important. Can you talk a little bit about leadership and what it means to you and what it takes for specifically for people of color to be great leaders and the various expectations that you have as a leader?
Sure. My mentor over the years and friend to this day, Henry Cisneros, told me that when he was a White House fellow and working for his mentor told him one thing that he always remembered, which is before you move on to the next thing, become expert in what you're doing now. Know what you're doing now and become expert in that, and then move on. So I recommend that people have patience, operate with a sense of urgency, but have patience with the process, and know that there's some things that need to take place. And that's not to say wait your turn or wait your time or come back later, because I don't believe in deferring people either. When the time is right and you're ready, all power to you. But do have patience with the process and take the necessary steps and get the necessary knowledge that you need to survive, to thrive. The other thing is that as a leader, some people take issue with the title of this type of leadership, which is servant leadership, and they'll say, "Well, wait a minute, that sounds too much like being a servant, and those years are behind us." No, it's providing service. So maybe it should be called service leadership. But I think I operate as a servant leader. I'm on this earth to serve, and that's my life's mission. Also, I'm a transformational leader. My belief is that anything that I take on should be better for my having been part of it because of what I've put into it, and also it makes me better for what I've learned and what I've experienced in that effort. So service leadership and transformational leadership are huge. Also, as African Americans and Latinos, Hispanics, and people on this planet, we still have some issues to deal with that most people don't every day. Other minorities as well, or other disenfranchised people share this pain too. And that is that there's still an amount or a degree of ignorance where people, through their fears or lack of knowledge, fear us and don't understand us, don't get us. and would rather have us conform and to their norm. And that means many times working 2 or 3 times harder. You'll hear that over and over again. I have to work 2 or 3 times harder, and still, at any given staff meeting, someone will say something so ignorant that I have to just, literally bite through my lip, not to say anything at that time, or to use all the tact in the world to address it in the moment. So being a leader, African American or Latino leader in this instance, as we're speaking, really means to have high emotional intelligence, to have a real sense of history and politics, and that includes corporate or organizational politics, or even human nature politics. And it also means being fearless and courageous, and always doing extra. I tell folks sometimes when I begin a speech or a workshop, or even a video meeting, I tell folks that I'm there today because I'm extraordinary. And usually you'll see the eyes roll, if you can see the eyes roll, or hear the, oh my God, listen to this guy. What I really mean is that I'm extraordinary because it's 2 words, extra and ordinary. I'm an ordinary person who does extra. And that's where I get the extraordinary. I wake up every day to be extraordinary. Be that ordinary person who just does extra. Because in these times, it calls for extra.
That's a great perspective on extraordinary. I like that. Well, in the last few minutes that we have, can you talk a little bit? I know you talked about going to Colombia, but one of the things we want to promote on this show is the importance of education and helping students matriculate in higher education. Do you have any type of advice that you would have for any student, one piece of advice in terms of college?
So the whole landscape has changed. So this conversation we're having today is different from one we would have had 3 months ago, given that some schools have closed down, may not open in the fall. And so people are really having to look at their options. Some people are asking for their money back for this last term. So really the question needs to be, what type of knowledge do you want to do what?
Exactly.
What type of knowledge do you want to do what? And you don't have to have the answer to the what just now. I changed my major or my thoughts 3 times. English, sociology, economics, psychology, and ended up poli-sci urban studies. So look at the institution. First of all, go to college or get a degree. And if you're going to go 2-year route, think 4 years, 4-year institution ultimately. Start with the 2, aiming for the 4, and get the tools and the experience and the knowledge that you need to do what you think you want to do. Also, I tell folks it doesn't matter the major. What matters are the transferable skills and the transferable knowledge. An analytical brain is enormously valuable. So looking at things critically, analytically is very, very important. Also, don't get so caught up in the prestige of things. It has to be this school or that school, or it's bust. I'm not going to go anywhere. No, go where you need to go. And I have a theory that the universe aligns and there's no such thing as coincidence. And regardless of your spirituality or beliefs, there is no such thing as accident or coincidence. Things happen because it's destiny, and do what you will with your destiny.
Great advice, Alfred. Man, I can't believe that we're already have time's up. So I would love to have you back to discuss more, because we didn't even get into detail about what Diverse Strategies Now is all about. Plus, I just want to hear more, and I'm sure our audience wants to hear more. If anybody wants to contact you, do you have a website or any social media handles or email you'd like to share?
Sure. So definitely visit my website at diversestrategiesnow.com. It's www.diversestrategiesnow.com. And you can find out all about what I do in those 4 areas that I mentioned. And my Twitter account is Alfred Ram. And I'm on LinkedIn if people want to search me out on LinkedIn. And I definitely would love to talk about the work that I do, or I'm doing more so to create and develop more allies in this work. And there's strength in numbers. And definitely to be able to do more work exponentially and seek others' help in doing that.
This sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Alfred. I look forward to having you back really, really soon.
Well, I loved it. And the great questions, great opportunity, great forum that you created. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support. And, of course, our featured guest.